All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be focusing on the Crusades today. So this is chapter 18, section 2. You can have your quiz out going through this with you as you watch this video. All right, so the Crusades, probably one of the most famous time periods of the Middle Ages, or even most controversial time periods, because there's going to be a lot of religious war is really what the Crusades are all about. But first of all, we need to talk about why the Crusades were fought. In the last section, we were talking about how the Pope had so much power over kings and over all the people of Europe. Well, this purple area is all Christian land at this time. Okay, we're looking at 1096 to 1204. The problem was, here's Jerusalem, and this is kind of seen as the religious holy place for the Christians because this is where Jesus was born. Jesus did all of his teachings and died and all that. But now at this time, it's in control of Muslims. It's surrounded by Muslim lands, and really it's kind of in control of the Muslims. So what happens is the Crusades are going to be fought to gain control of this holy land known as Palestine from the Muslims, put it back into Christian hands. Now, during the Crusades, the Christians are going to fight against the Muslims. Okay, so Pope Urban II, he's going to be the first pope that calls out for the Crusades. He calls out for all the good Christians to go recapture the Holy Lands from the Muslims. But there was also the Byzantines. Okay, if we go back to this here map again, this is where the Byzantine Empire is. You can see right here, Byzantine Empire, part of the old Eastern Roman Empire. As you can see, this yellow, this gold, it's starting to creep and infringe and get very close to Constantinople. This was scaring the Eastern Orthodox Christians, those in Constantinople. It was scaring them. They didn't think they could hold back the Muslim Turks, the Seljuk Turks and others. So they called on the Pope in Rome to send soldiers over to help them push back these Muslim warriors. Well, the Pope agrees. Okay, Pope Urban II calls for the European Christians to go reclaim Palestine, to go fight the Muslims from Jerusalem, from Palestine. Now, the European peasants are going to go first, though, not the knights, not the nobles, not the actual soldiers. It's going to be European peasants that actually go first. And they're led by a guy, you can kind of see it right here, named Peter the Hermit. And then there's also Walter the Penniless. Okay, they're going to be the first Europeans that are going to go attack this area. But they kind of screw up. Instead of actually attacking Muslims, they actually attack Jews. Because, as you know, at this time here, the Christians blame the Jews for killing Jesus. So actually, they start taking out their punishment on the Jewish people. And then they are actually killed by Muslim forces. So it's not very successful. So actually, the first crusade, though, is going to be knights that leave Europe to go reclaim Jerusalem. And they're successful. They actually do, in that first crusade, go capture Jerusalem, kick the Muslims out. Then they're going to split Palestine up into 4 kingdoms. However, over about a 50-year time period, the Muslims begin attacking those 4 kingdoms, and then they retake Jerusalem. The Muslim forces retake Jerusalem, and that's what leads to a second crusade. European nobles and kings are going to go over there again and try to reclaim Palestine, but they are quickly defeated by the Muslims. And then that leads to the Third Crusade, which really goes down in history as kind of the famous crusade. This is where King Richard I from England is going to be part of this crusade. He gets his nickname Richard the Lionhearted from this crusade. And then this is also where the Muslim warrior leader Saladin is located, and he is an excellent leader for the Muslim forces. Saladin and King Richard I will go to battle quite often. Their armies will battle each other a lot during this Third Crusade. Saladin respects the European Christians. King Richard respects Saladin and the Muslim warriors, and actually I don't want to say they get along, but they do cooperate with each other fairly well after the Crusades and things like that. There will be a compromise. The Christians will not reclaim Jerusalem, so the Muslims will hold on to Jerusalem. They're going to allow the Christians to come visit Jerusalem. They're not going to tax them, those types of things, all that. But really, it ends in a compromise. So it's not like one defeats the other. They have kind of a commercial agreement. But King Richard and Saladin, what they're going to actually do is form kind of a bond between the Muslims and the Christians to where later on they're going to be trading with each other. As you can see, there are going to be 5 more crusades. You have a 4th crusade. Initially, the Europeans try to go through Africa, through Egypt, but they don't make it all the way to Jerusalem for some reason. They actually just go to Constantinople and try to defeat the Eastern Roman Empire. It really becomes confusing in the 4th through 8th Crusades. It becomes more of the Western Roman Empire defeating the Eastern Roman Empire. It's very, very weird. Now, why did the Byzantine emperor ask for help in the beginning? Asked for help because the Muslim Turks were threatening Constantinople. Now, what was the outcome of the Crusades? The outcome is, of course, that the Muslims are going to maintain control of these holy lands. It weakens the power of the church in Europe. Okay, we had talked about the popes being so powerful. Well, it's going to be through the Crusades that they actually lose their power. Kings are going to gain power and things like that. Trade between Europe and Asia is going to increase. You know, you have these soldiers that are over there in Asia fighting for years and years at a time, not back in Europe. They're going to start to enjoy some of the different items, foods, clothing, trinkets, whatever it is that they have in Asia, that when they do go back to Europe, they want those things also. So kings become more powerful. The Pope is lessened. His power is lessened. Tension between Christian and Muslim religions are going to increase, though. They're very wary of each other. I mean, they've been at war for hundreds of years, attacking each other. Well, that still continues today. And then the Byzantines will distrust those Christians because those Crusaders in Crusades 4 through 8, they're supposed to be going to Jerusalem to attack the Muslims, but they actually go and attack Constantinople. The Crusades were supposed to protect Constantinople, but instead they actually started attacking and from Constantinople. Some other things, this trade and travel. Travel will actually increase also. And it's with this trade and travel going back and forth, you also see the end of feudalism. This is going to help weaken feudalism. You have a lot of people that are killed during these Crusades. Well, these cities and things like that are going to need workers. You have the soldiers coming back from the Crusades. They don't want land anymore for payment. They want money for payment. So this is really going to weaken the feudalism system. But it's also through this trade that's going to bring us kind of to the next big moment in the Middle Ages of the Black Death, because that Black Plague is going to come on those ships to Europe. All right, why did the Crusaders fail? Lots of reasons. One, they had to travel long distances. Another one, they were not prepared for the weather. The climate was so much different that it was hot, humid, things like that. You know, this was the Muslims' land pretty much. Christians are outnumbered, of course, too, by the Muslim forces. And then again, beyond Richard I, Christian leaders were just not very good. They fought with each other a lot. They wanted their own, recognition, their own celebrity status, stuff like that. That they didn't do what was best to defeat the Muslims. They did what was best for themselves to become famous. And then Europeans just lost interest in it over the time. They're like, who cares? Let the Muslims have this here. We've got enough over here in Europe. We don't need to be having our sons and our husbands and our fathers killed over there in a place that we don't ever plan on even visiting. Now, the most important thing that came out of the Crusades was the exchange and trade of goods and ideas from Europe and Asia. Okay, so Europeans and Asians are going to be trading with each other. And like I said, this is going to bring the downfall of feudalism. It's going to introduce new ways of governing, new ways of learning, new ways of living to Europe. It's going to help. Yes, it's destructive, a war, but it's actually going to help Europe come out of the Middle Ages. There's still bad times that have to happen because the Black Plague hasn't happened yet. That's going to be bad also. But with the Crusades, it starts opening up Europe to new ideas, new ways of thinking. It's going to take a few hundred years, but that's relatively short in human history. But, the Middle Ages will be ending, and the Crusades are going to help bring along the end of the Middle Ages. That's one of the most important things, is that exchange of goods and ideas. All right, thanks for listening, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this one. The Crusades is a big deal. Please pay attention to it. Go ahead and finish your quiz, and then have a great weekend. Thank you.